All right, welcome to Rapid Fire Manufacturing. I am joined by Jason Roth. He's an engineer, he's an educator, and he's a coach. He works for Autodesk. He has a passion for transforming manufacturing and empowering future engineers. Jason, thank you so much for joining.
Thank you, David. Really excited to share, the talk, and to hopefully inspire some other educators and the industry.
Awesome, thank you so much. First question is, how can educators better prepare students for the evolving demands of modern manufacturing?
It's a loaded question. As you sent this, I was thinking about it more and more. I think, some of the things is how do we introduce technology earlier on within a program, regardless of what the program is, any type of manufacturing, any type of engineering programs. How do we introduce that technology early on? And not only look at, just how do we introduce that, but how do we teach those core concepts that we're trying to get across and implement that? And when I was at Ivy Tech Community College, one of the things that we really looked at was in our first semester course that was all hand drafting, how do we introduce our CAD into that course, but still get those key concepts of, how to bisect a line and create a circle and what is an octagon and how do you make that? So we introduced that software early, which really allowed us to accelerate and go further within the program as we went downstream and deeper into there. I think also is to that point is how do we mix technology in with traditional techniques? So when you look at a machining program that's doing all manual machining at the beginning of the semester, that is needed. And I don't disagree with that one bit. But what I would say is, let's think about how do we introduce them to CAD and do the drawing and add some components to that and add some GD&T to that and print that paper off as a PDF and then take it to the manual mill and use that. And I don't think you have to, eat the whole elephant at once. You can bite size it and introduce, maybe they get a drawing that's 60% done and they've got to finish it 40% of the way. So you're introducing these concepts and introducing them to the technology earlier. And that's around the CAD CAM side. As the machining side things, I think there's an ability to get on simulators. There's an ability to add in those concepts earlier on and showcase that. So that's a large question. I think thinking about how to introduce that technology earlier on in the curriculum is powerful.
So it's not just, hey, we're going to stick, with the technology side. This is all you're going to learn. It's kind of blending different learning, styles and technologies and processes, and allowing the students to learn all of these different types and, assimilate it that way.
Absolutely. And I think if you look at it, one of the questions we always got was, well, is that too much for the student to learn right away? But again, we were teaching it in chunks. And if you look at one of the things I talk about using our Fusion technology, Autodesk Fusion, in day one of the curriculum. And so an ability to say, why don't we, instead of showing them how to use the entire software and teaching them how to draw and do the G code and do drawings and all that, why don't we just give them a part? We give them then a drawing that is 80% done. And they only have to do that small, 30% of that drawing. But more importantly, as they're going through and selecting, let's say, a feature control frame and talking about circularity or flatness, is before they click that button to put it on that drawing, is you go out in the lab and talk about what is flatness, what is circularity, what is that GD, what is that button you're getting ready to put or that symbol, and let's go talk about how that's measured and why that's important. Come back, click the button, now they have it on there. And again, we haven't introduced a whole lot to them. We've really made it bite-sized. We've made it actionable where they understand, when I click this, I'm going to go measure it this way out here in the shop. And so really applied it and really showcased what it was going to be for at the end versus just saying, trust me, we're going to use it at some point in your classes. Let's show them what it is right now.
I love that approach. And I feel like it allows people to connect the dots more easily because you're actually getting a little bite size. Because when you do everything at once, sometimes it's hard to retain some of that information. But like you said, if you have, cylindricity, and then you can actually go out and measure that, that's a powerful thing to make those connections.
Yeah, I like in coaching, we kind of have that accidental conditioning where they are running around and they don't know it. And same thing here is accidental learning, really. It's they are learning in core concepts and they just don't realize it. And that's, back even when I first taught, it was very much, hey, we're going to look at this whiteboard and I'm going to write a bunch of stuff. You write it all down. At some point, we'll talk about what it's for. But just trust me that what I'm telling you is the thing that you need. So let's get out there and be active with it and really immerse ourselves and the students in it.
I like that. Accidental learning. That's cool. So what are the biggest challenges you see bridging the skills gap between, traditional practices and some of the newer technologies?
I think I'm gonna use the word scared, and that's probably a heavier word than what I'm trying to say. But there is some hesitation maybe on both sides, really three sides, from the student, from the educator, and from the industry. And I think the hesitation is just kind of what's going to happen next. Is what's the and I think. And if I back up, it's really what is the ramification if I change, if I do something different now for the next step. And so I think when I talk to educators across the nation right now, and from my time at Ivy Tech community colleges, we were often scared that the students were going to mess something up. I've got a 3D printer right here. We were often like, oh, if the student touches it or uses it, something bad might happen. And I know that's expensive. You look at a 5-axis CNC machine, that can cost some money. But if you put the right processes in place, you put the right infrastructure in place and the right teaching in place, you should have some checks and balances to go, okay, something bad could happen, of course, but you've really minimized that through your process. I think there's a change in general. If we're going to change our curriculum, how do we change that is one of the hesitations and some of the scary part of that, because that's a big lift to change your curriculum and to add in new technology, whether it be software or hardware. But tertiary to that is, how am I going to get trained as the educator to teach this stuff? This is new to me. We do have an eclectic group of educators out there that may not be as trained on the new technology, very well trained on the older technology or the current technology, but just not trained on this new stuff. And that's the fact, because technology is moving so darn fast.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I feel I'm even out of date, and I work for a CAD CAM software company, Autodesks. But I think it's taking that time. It's companies helping with professional development. It's companies coming in saying, hey, we're going to help you get trained because we need you to teach this technology. And it's companies not just coming in and say, we need your students to do this, and then they turn around and leave. Then we need companies to come in and industry to come in and say, hey, we really need this, and here's how we're going to help you do that.
Yeah, it's working together, right?
Absolutely.
It comes down to industry, the students, and then the teachers all working together to come up with these processes to employ that's going to make things more efficient and, I guess, smoother operations. But how do you do that? What would be your first step to kind of solving some of that?
Right, and I think we were talking earlier. This idea of the reverse career fair really helped us transform that communication to the industry and the industry back to us. So the reverse career fair, a traditional career fair is an employer comes in, they have a booth, they set up cool stuff, they have a bunch of widgets that they hand out, and students walk around and go. A lot of times they're just trying to grab free stuff. They don't even know what questions to ask the employer there. And it just becomes kind of this cool thing that happened. Well, in the reverse career fair, we literally reverse that. The students have the booth. They showcase what skills they have. They showcase what they're learning. They showcase what they've done in the past. Being at a community college, we had such a group of students in there that were coming right out of high school, or students that were coming, they were getting laid off, or they were changing what their jobs were and they wanted to be retrained. So they had that experience in the background too. So as we worked with the industry found out, hey, we're really doing some really innovative things in our classroom that they had not seen before. The students weren't really showcasing that when they were going to do their interviews in a more traditional fashion. So we were able to have those conversations. Then we also had the conversations afterwards, post reverse career fair. What are we missing? What didn't you see in these students? What didn't you see in their work? And we started talking about how do we fix that? How do we add that in? And then there was those conversations. Sometimes we really had to have some heart-to-heart conversations with our industry of what do they want versus what do they need. and those conversations have to happen. And they're not always the greatest conversations because everybody wants their own little thing. But
Mm-hmm.
it is a conversation we need to have. And I gave an example before. One of the advisory board meetings I had educators come, or the industry come in, and they wrote down 53 or 54 softwares that they needed our students to know in our mechanical and architectural drafting program. Like I can't teach 53 courses or 53 softwares. I don't have enough adjuncts. I don't have enough support for that. So we talked about skills and abilities. What are those skills and abilities they need for this particular program, that particular program? And we can fit that, and we can find the software, the right software is the backbone. We can add in some things, but what are those skills and abilities they really need to know, and started working on that. And I think, rambling a little bit, but I do think it's that honest conversation of what do they need versus what do they want.
Mm-hmm. I think maybe some of that is don't assume. Like that's why you have those conversations. It's easy to
Absolutely.
assume things, and then you wonder why there could be some complications with that.
Right. We were talking about the manual machining. We've had several programs that we've talked to where they've really limited their manual machining because they know in their industry, in that area, they're doing very little manual machining, or what it's turned into, it's been grinding. And so they do a lot of grinding. They haven't gotten rid of the curriculum about manual machining, but they've really concentrated it and really molded it to fit what the industry is asking for. So that now allows them to accelerate into the CNC world, into the CAM world, and get further along in a shorter amount of time.
Yeah, I'm very eager to see how everything works out because I feel like we're heading down a really good path, and I just I want to see everyone succeed in manufacturing. So I'm grateful
Absolutely.
that you're a part of that and helping to shape some of these communities and kids to head down a path of manufacturing. So thank you for that.
No, it's an exciting time, and I think finally we have the ability. Everybody's having these conversations now. It's just not one sided, and that's
Mm-hmm.
making powerful change out there.
Yes, absolutely. Well, for those of you watching, thank you so much. Stay tuned for more industry leaders like Jason. Jason, thank you so much.
Thank you.